The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Zekthara of the Vorthak Empire stood to address the assembly. Her crystalline form shimmered with barely contained fury, each facet reflecting the ambient light like a prism of rage. "The humans," she began, her voice resonating through translation matrices across 100 species, "have violated the preservation protocols. They have deliberately driven a sentient species to extinction within their own solar system." Murmurs rippled through the vast chamber. The humans had been provisional members of the Council for barely 50 standard cycles, their rapid technological advancement both impressive and concerning to the elder races. Now, it seemed, their primitive nature had finally surfaced. Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force maintained her composure at the defendant's podium, though her hands trembled slightly. Behind her sat the other human representatives, their faces grave. This was it, the moment that would determine whether humanity remained in the galactic community or faced isolation among the stars. "The evidence is clear," Zekthara continued, activating a holographic display. "Scan records from your own world show the presence of a highly intelligent species that once dominated Earth's landmasses. Yet when we arrived, we found no trace of them. Only humans remained." The hologram showed massive skeletal remains, clearly predatory in nature, with enlarged craniums indicating significant brain development. The assembled aliens gasped at the implications. Here was proof of a sapient species that had simply vanished. Elder Morthek of the ancient collective leaned forward, his 1,000-year-old voice crackling through the speakers. "Speak, humans. What became of these creatures?" Captain Chen stepped forward, her voice steady despite the weight of 1 billion souls resting on her words. "Honored Council, we did not drive them to extinction. We are them." The chamber erupted in confusion. Zekthara's crystalline form flared, brighter. "Impossible! The cranial capacity, the skeletal structure, these beings were clearly apex predators." "You're absolutely right," Chen replied, surprising everyone. "They were the most feared creatures our world had ever seen. For over 65 million years, they ruled through terror and violence. Nothing could stand against them." She activated her own holographic display, showing Earth's ancient history. "We called them dinosaurs. Specifically, these remains you've found belong to the genus Tyrannosaurus, the tyrant lizards. They were everything you describe, intelligent, powerful, and utterly dominant. The Galactic Council watched in fascination as the display showed the massive predators in their prime, ruling vast ecosystems with unquestioned authority. "But then," Chen continued, 66 million years ago, everything changed. A cosmic impact, an asteroid 10 kilometers wide, struck our world. In the aftermath, these magnificent creatures faced a choice that would define not just their fate, but the very essence of what they would become." The hologram shifted, showing the aftermath of the Great Extinction event. Small, fur-covered creatures scurried through the devastation, while the great predators struggled to survive in a world suddenly hostile to their existence. The dinosaurs who survived were not the largest or the strongest, Chen explained. They were the ones who learned to adapt, to cooperate, to think beyond mere survival. Over millions of years, they evolved not just physically, but philosophically. Zekthara's crystalline form dimmed with uncertainty. "What are you saying?" Chen smiled, her expression both proud and humble. I'm saying that humanity's greatest achievement isn't our technology or our art or our exploration of the stars. It's that we chose to evolve beyond our nature as apex predators. We chose cooperation over domination, creation over destruction. She gestured to the fossil display. Those terrifying creatures you found evidence of? They're our ancestors. But more than that, they're proof that even the most fearsome predators in the universe can choose to become something better. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Elder Morthek was the first to speak, his ancient voice filled with wonder. You mean to tell us that your species voluntarily abandoned the path of the apex predator? Not abandoned, Chen corrected. Transformed. We still carry that predator's instinct, that survival drive that made our ancestors successful. But we've learned to channel it into protection rather than predation, exploration rather than conquest. She paused, looking around the chamber at the assembled alien delegates. Every species here achieved spaceflight and interstellar travel. But how many of you were apex predators first? How many of you had to overcome the instinct to see every other being as either prey or competition? The silence stretched longer this time. Finally, Ambassador Veltar of the Harmonic Convergence, a species known for their pacifistic nature, spoke up. The Vorthak were apex predators, she said quietly, as were the Kajari, the Thelonic Empire, and at least 40% of the species in this chamber. Zekathera's form flickered. That is irrelevant. The point, Elder Morthek interrupted, is that these humans may have achieved something remarkable. They have not simply evolved beyond their predatory nature. They have done so while maintaining the strength that nature provided. Captain Chen nodded. We remember what we were, and we choose what we are. Every day, every generation, we make the conscious decision to be builders rather than destroyers, protectors rather than predators. She gestured to her fellow humans. When we first detected signals from space, our military leaders wanted to prepare for war. Our politicians wanted to hide. But our people, the descendants of the greatest predators our world ever knew, chose to reach out in friendship. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with quiet conversations as delegates reconsidered their assumptions about the young species before them. Elder Morthek spoke again, his voice carrying the weight of millennia. Perhaps we have been asking the wrong question. Not what happened to Earth's apex predators, but rather, what can we learn from their transformation? Zekthara's crystalline form gradually returned to its normal luminescence. The charges, she said slowly, are withdrawn. But I would ask the humans this. How do we know you will not revert? How do we know the predator will not resurface? Captain Chen smiled, an expression that would have terrified prey animals millions of years ago, but now conveyed warmth and understanding, because we remember the terror we once were, and we've chosen to become something our ancestors could never have imagined. Guardians of the very creatures we once would have hunted. She looked around the chamber one final time. We are proof that even the most fearsome predators can evolve beyond their nature. And perhaps, in a universe that still harbors so much darkness, that's exactly what the galaxy needs. The vote to confirm humanity's full membership in the Galactic Council was unanimous. As the session ended, Elder Morthek approached Captain Chen privately. Tell me, he said, curiosity evident in his ancient voice, do you ever miss it? The simplicity of being apex predators? Chen considered the question carefully. Sometimes, she admitted. But then I remember that our ancestors, for all their power, lived in a world of constant fear and competition. We've chosen to build a world where that's no longer necessary. She looked out through the chamber's great windows at the stars beyond. Besides, the universe is vast and full of wonders. Being apex predators of a single world seems rather small compared to being explorers of infinity. Elder Morthek nodded slowly. Perhaps these young humans had indeed found something worth preserving. Not just their species, but the very idea that evolution could be guided by choice rather than mere survival. The terror of Earth's past had become the hope of its future, and perhaps the galaxy's as well.